Hi, I'm Kraig Gradowitz. I am the owner of Signature Home Lending here in Bakersfield.
We're pretty much live. So let me go ahead and start off with the key points. So we got Kraig here today. Got into the business back in 1990. So he's been in the business for about 32 years, 33 now, huh?
Yeah, 33.
33 years. Got his real estate license in 1990. Has been a licensed broker since 1997. So yeah, man, I mean, that's the introduction. Give us a little bit more about you. I'll let you kind of talk and we'll just kind of dive into, certain topics.
All right. Well, like you said, I got into the business 1990 right out of high school. My dad had a hard money loan operation.
Okay.
So it's kind of funny. I talk to people about it sometimes, and they're like, "So that's what you always wanted to do?" I'm like, "No, I had no idea what I wanted to do." But a couple things along the way clicked a little bit. I like the idea, like the numbers, and working with interest rates and things like that. And
yeah.
So I went right into it and kind of worked different departments along the way, and kind of learned everything, and just kind of went from there. So we had that family business till about 1999, where we closed it up. Big long story, grew and got bigger and all this other stuff, but closed up in 1999, and then I opened up a branch for a company called Lancaster Mortgage in 99, and which was just strictly doing what we do now, regular FHA, VA, conventional, loans and that kind of thing, hard money thing, all that subprime stuff was behind me. And then 2004, we opened up Signature Home Lending. So it's been 19 years this year.
Nice. Wow. Well, congratulations. What was that family business that you had back in 1999?
Yeah, so it was the hard money operation that my dad had. Okay. Yeah, I kind of evolved a little bit more into like, back then when I started, you either got a loan from the bank. Mm-hmm. Okay, you either had an A-paper deal, that's what we used to call it, or your hard money. Okay, there was nothing in between. There was no subprime. There was no, stated income. It was just nothing.
Not a lot of products available.
Not a lot of products. Simple. Okay. It's either you qualify, you're perfect, everything, or you got to go get a hard money deal.
Okay.
But coincidentally, as when I started, that started to change a little bit, and so some these new products started coming in, these new types of avenues, and so I was young and I was excited, so I started getting into that a little bit. So we kind of grew that, and we got into doing subprime stuff, second mortgages primarily. So you guys probably wouldn't remember, probably weren't born. No, I don't know, but
probably not, to be honest.
Yeah, but around that time, maybe around 95 or 96 or whatever, was. Seconds were really hot. 125s was a big thing. Okay, so what that meant was you could borrow 125% of your value. Okay, so you got $100,000 value, 125 max. You have a $80,000 mortgage. You could get a $45,000 second.
Oh,
right?
Gotcha. Okay.
Oh man, it was hot. It was just hot.
So it was a new thing.
Yeah. So we dove into that, got into that heavy, and started picking up a lot, booming all over the place. And then market crashed. I've been through a few crashes, so that was the first time that you just you don't see it coming. It happens. You don't know. And I was so young, I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, what's the problem here? I don't understand. And so that was what the family business was. And in '99, it all kind of hit the fan.
So would you say the majority of your upbringing was just being revolved around real estate, or what would you say?
Yeah, what is it that inspired
you to get into the business?
Yeah, kind of as I was touching on earlier, I've been asked that before, and it's kind of like, yes, for sure, that's all it's surrounded on. I mean, if you really look at it from, just like a childhood basis, it was so boring, because I'm like 8 or 10, and all my dad is talking about, to my mom is about interest rates and the feds and all the stuff that I'm just like, man, I mean, it was, you're a kid, right?
Yeah.
So all that was kind of in my head. There was a moment where it kind of shifted a little bit. For my 8th grade graduation, my dad gave me a note. He put in my name or whatever. So because he had these hard money loans, right?
Right.
So this note was like $1,000 or something.
Oh, balance. Cool. Okay.
Yeah. And so I'm like, I didn't understand. I'm like, what is this? So he started explaining to me, he's like, this person is paying every month, and they're paying this much payment and this much interest rate, and it's yours. You do whatever you want with it. If you want, you could sell it. If you want, you could, borrow against it. I'm like, what? Whatever reason, that stuck and that clicked, and I went, man, this is cool. I like this. And then honestly, I didn't really know what else to do, because it's like, well, I mean, it was kind of simple. My brother went to work there. My sister went to work there. So it was a little bit of both. Like, it was fascinating, but to be real honest, it was kind of also easy.
So it was legitimately a family business. That's exactly what it was.
Right. So it was a little bit of both, but clearly, like, day one, I was really fascinated with it. And that's why I was saying, like, I was in different departments, because, I get bored and I'm like, okay, I learned this now. I want to go learn this. And so it went kind of fast once I got into it.
Nice.
That's actually one of the questions that I had for you. So obviously, you've been in the business for quite some time. I know you mentioned you had your broker's license. And throughout that time, again, 33 years is a long time. And typically, most of it was lending, right?
Yes, all lending.
Okay.
Yeah.
So during that process, did you ever lose focus on that one thing, or did you try multiple things? Because obviously, like, in our industry, you can do all kinds of crap, bro. Like, you can do wholesaling, you can do flipping, you can do a lot of the agents that come in, they get confused because they want to go all these different routes or different directions, so they kind of lose focus of the bigger picture. Did you do that?
I mean, well, day to day, no, right? So day to day was always like the day job, but definitely did flipping for a long time. I did that for a while. There was a moment during some of the tougher times where I looked into being a stockbroker. I thought, well, that would be kind of cool, and I was used to working with money, and I was used to working with investors and things like that. I understood it, and it's because I replied to a radio ad. So there was a radio ad that Smith Barney was hiring, right? And I knew a couple people there. So I called, they're like, yeah, man, you should come check it out. And so I went over there and interviewed, interview went well. And they go, well, you got to take a test. It's a 2-part test. Okay. The 1-part test was the math. Okay. I aced that. No problem. The other part test was the personality. I flunked the personality test, so they didn't hire me.
What? How do you rate a personality test?
So, I didn't hear anything, right? And I'm like, damn, I mean, I think I could do this. And part of their sell was exactly what you just said, where you don't have to be in here all day. Like, we just care that you find people that have money that invest. And I'm like, yeah, that's easy. I could do that. And then so I felt like I could kind of do both, and I needed the income. So it was like kind of cool. Well, I didn't hear back. And so when I checked with the guy I know, and I'm like, hey, man, I never heard back. He's like, that's kind of weird. And so he goes and talks to the manager. The manager says, yeah, man, can't bring him on because of the personality, man. So he comes back. He goes, Kraig, come on. You can't answer these things honestly. He's like, imagine some old man in a room by himself, really conservative, really careful. That's who they want. They don't want some young, cocky, arrogant kid. You can't answer these questions honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, come on. I don't know that. And he goes, just take the test again. You can take it in a few months. And I did it.
How old were you when you went out for that test?
Oh man, that's a good question. I'm gonna say, gosh, I was probably like maybe 30, maybe a little younger. So I learned a couple things there. Learned about the stock market a little bit more, because kind of like, oh, I see, you guys don't want risk takers, which makes perfect sense.
Yeah. You got to have the safe investments. That's what it is for them.
Yeah. But, getting back to your question, I've gotten deterred a couple times. That's one, because, when times are tougher and you do question, well, I don't know, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. But I think at the end of the day, it's pretty simple, which I still feel the same way. It's what I know, one. Two, I can make a good living doing it without having real strict boundaries and things like that. We have a lot of flexibility in our industry, as you guys know.
For sure.
And I think that's a certain positive thing. I've always been as balanced as I could be. I coached football for a lot of years. Couldn't do that if I had a real strict job. So I think I kind of always came back to those couple things, and that's what kind of kept me going forward.
Would you say that it was, obviously everything happens for a reason. Would you say you were glad that they actually didn't hire you at that brokerage, because obviously that would have
been a different point for you in life. If they would have hired you, we wouldn't be talking with you right now.
Right. I don't know. Who knows? It's funny you said that. Yeah.
You'll find them on Wall Street.
I know.
It would have been too big.
I know. I have actually thought about that a few times. And I do kind of believe that, what, I'm not like big on, destiny and all that at all, but I am kind of big on, the path's gonna take you where it's gonna take you. You're going down, and you're just kind of doing your thing, and the road signs are there, and you're kind of paying attention. And so I have thought about it. I have no idea no idea, what would have taken place if it would have been a long term or short term or a success or a fail. I don't know, but I have thought about it.
I got you. One of the things that I want to talk about too, real quick, obviously you mentioned, you've been in the business for some time. Obviously we know you got into it because of your family members. It was a family business.
Sure.
When you started, do you feel like you also had a lot of support in a sense of, obviously, when you come in, we're in a commission-based job, right? If we make money, then, we have money to pay our bills. If we don't make money, then we're kind of shit out of luck, right? So that's kind of where a lot of the issue comes in with a lot of these newer agents, newer lenders even, right?
Sure, of course.
It's again, strictly commission-based. Did you ever feel like you didn't have that support, or did you have that support when you had those low times? Because again, as a newer agent, you're going to start off with nothing unless you already have a base, right? How did you start off? Did you struggle, and what did you do to overcome those struggles, if there were any?
Well, in the beginning, I was salary. I worked for my dad. It was different. I wasn't even in sales yet. I was just doing, office work.
Gotcha.
That kind of thing. So if you go back to the very beginning, it was pretty simple. And our operation was, probably slow moving. It wasn't like super high, fast like we see today, like with what we do and that kind of thing. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. When I switched over more in sales and more like commission, I wouldn't say, it was necessarily super easy, but it was more order taking.
Yeah.
It was like we were probably the number one in town of hard money lending. As I mentioned, you either got a loan at the bank or you got the hard money. So we had a lot of customer base, a lot of people walking in. They need to talk to somebody. I'm there. It wasn't killing to eat. That's the way I say it today.
Okay.
Today it's killing to eat. What you just described, you don't eat if you don't kill.
Yeah.
So that's the way it goes. It really wasn't, to be real honest. It really wasn't.
And this was back in what year?
When I first started 90, so up to probably 95, 96.
Okay.
At some point, my dad wanted to retire, and I took over the business completely. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
I'm paid on a monthly basis, but the bottom line is that, I'm at control. So the stakes were a lot higher, and that was different. And we just talked about the successes or failures. And like I said, 99, we went down. And
that was my question too.
Yeah.
What happened in 99 for you guys? How did it affect your company, and, how did you overcome that?
Right. Well, what happened basically is there was no market to buy these second mortgages anymore. And, I mentioned this before. It's called the Asian flu. You could look it up in 99. It was a some economic market that went bad in Asia and started flowing over here. And so what we would do is we'd fund all these loans, we'd sell them off every month. So we had bidders coming in to look at them, and it was awesome, because it was just like a machine,
Yeah.
And then one day, no, we don't want to buy them. We were talking about, and then, well, hey, I thought I was talking to Anthony, who's Rico? I've never met him before. Well, Anthony's out. No, I'm the new guy. I'm like, okay.
Right.
And we aren't buying them. Well, where's Anthony? That's what was happening. People were gone, getting laid off, right?
Yeah.
And then you get, fax machine was big back then. So you get the fax that, thanks for all the years, we're out of business. Thanks, we're out of business. It was like, what the heck?
Closing back to back.
Wow.
Right. So it was just like, okay, well, our whole business was based on it. So it was like, what do you do now? And I will never forget, we had a warehouse line. If you guys don't know what a warehouse line is, how you fund the mortgage loans is a warehouse line of credit. We had a warehouse line to fund these, and then so you fund them. The whole purpose of warehouse line is to fund them, and then they have to be taken off, sold within, like 60 days, 30, 60 days, whatever.
Yeah.
And had a warehouse line of about 1.1 million of second mortgages, which doesn't sound like a lot when you think of like houses, but when you think of seconds, it's a lot of 20,000s, a lot of 30,000s, And I forget, I got served at home. I got served and knock on the door, here, you've been served with this lawsuit from the warehouse bank saying, pay us our 1.1 million.
Wow.
I'm going, how the hell am I going to do that?
Right.
Wow.
So it was pretty crazy. And I did. I got them all sold off one at a time, here at a time. And at the very, very end, we owed, I think, left about 40 grand of this, like 1.1 million. And we called my dad and we said, hey, listen, we got this all the way down to this. Can we borrow 40 grand? And he gave me, my brother and sister, because we were the three that were, obligated.
Yeah.
To take the 40 grand to pay him off. And
That's
so,
awesome, yeah.
My first bailout experience.
That's honestly, bro, it's a blessing. Again, if you have that, I think that's amazing, bro. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of people that, they start in our industry, like I mentioned earlier. Yeah, if you hunt, you eat. If you don't, you're starving, and that's the shitty part. So it's a beautiful thing to have that. And I think a lot of us strive for that too. Like myself, I talk about it all the time and probably every podcast, bro. The reason I feel like why I work hard the way that I do is because I want to be there for my kids. I want to be that bailout for them if it ever happened. If it ever came. Obviously, I want them to work their asses off and know what it is to even, have that, I guess, luxury of where we're at, right? But
you want stability.
I want stability, 100%.
And for them, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think it's beautiful, there's nothing wrong with growing up like, hey, my dad worked his ass off. I want my kids to say that about me,
Of course. Of course. I driving over here, my youngest daughter, texts me and she's like, "Oh my God, Dad, guess what? I got an interview at this hospital. She wants to be a nurse. She's not out of college yet, but like an intern for the summer."
Okay.
And I mean, that's the kind of thing you want to hear. You know what I mean? It's like, hell yeah,
sure.
Kick ass. Tell me what happens after. I mean, you want to be able to show the example the best you can of how to go out and get it done and how to get stability for yourself.
Yeah.
So
absolutely,
I totally agree.
And one thing I admire about you, and the reason why I decided to call you on to the podcast too, was because of the fact that you still managed to take the company from where it was at to what it is today, bro. And that's a huge accomplishment. I mean, how many lenders do you have working for you right now, or with you?
We have 11 right now.
You guys have 11?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And you said you've been with, I guess, you're a franchise owner, right? Is that what it is?
It basically is a way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, franchise owner. How long have you been doing that with Signature?
04. So 19 years this May.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. What are some of the biggest challenges you had with Signature from when you started up until now? And
the crash in 07, 08.
yeah, that's what I wanted to get into. That's what I wanted to hear right now.
That's the one right there.
So
that's the one that you wake up every night and go, "Oh my God, are we going through this again?"
Yeah. Oh man.
So you had the first crash in '99, and then straight 8 years after you had the one in 08.
Right.
Okay. So what was the significant difference between the two? Typically, they're both crashes, right?
Right. Well, I would say, the 99 deal was very isolated.
Yeah.
That wasn't probably something that if you're going to go back and look, that it's going to come up in headlines like the 08 situation with banks going out of business, with everyone losing their home, totally different. It was really a lot more isolated into what we were trying to do. It was specific to that market, secondary market niche, of those types of loans. So, if I was an FHA game and VA game back then, I don't think I would have noticed.
Yeah.
I just kind of cruised on through. Yeah, I was so that was one thing that I learned there was, hey, don't be in the niche market, because it is a little bit scary because things can happen,
Right.
So that right there, I got into just your regular, standard A paper kind of deal because I just didn't feel like it's good to do that. You come up to 08, obviously a lot different. At the same time, it did affect everybody.
Yeah.
It did affect everybody. And, I would have been not experienced enough, not old enough to be wise enough to have seen it. But I can tell you, look back when we were in it, it wasn't right. Like, you just knew it wasn't right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the stuff that was being done, the types of deals that we kind of had to do just because everybody else is doing them anyway. 228s with 2-year interest only, this kind of stuff. You definitely knew it wasn't right. I didn't understand, what could happen or whatever. I'll totally admit that. But looking back, I can tell you it was definitely wrong. It was weird. It was different.
And what exactly was going on back at that time?
Well, I think in real simple terms, all you had to have was a credit score to get a loan. Okay,
Shitty borrowers.
Right. So, as long as you had a credit score, right? So the key there was find anybody with a, 700 or something like that, right? And then it's 0 down, no income, no assets, no nothing. And after that part, that's fine. The real issue was you take like a 5% rate or 6% or 4.5% or whatever it was. After 2 years, that 5 or that 6 went to like 10 or 11 or 12.
Yeah, they were called teaser rates, right?
Yeah. It's 228 or is what the big thing was, meaning 2 years fixed, or excuse me, 2 years. Yes, I'm sorry, 2 years fixed, then 28 into an adjustable.
Yeah.
And the way adjustable rates work is you take an index, which, say the index is, cost of funds for 11th district or whatever, prime,
Right.
Prime, whatever. and then plus, okay, whatever. So these things were huge in the margin in the plus. So you have like, say the index is maybe at 5, but the margin's 5. So then when it rolls over, it's a 10% rate.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, if rates went down, the rate would go down, but it's never going to go low because the margins were too high. So anyway, they were set for destruction. There's no way anybody in their right mind after 2 years would be comfortable with the way the rate was.
Right.
Now, of course, if you were a good borrower, you could say, oh, okay, you know what? It's been a fun ride. I'll just go ahead and do a refi. Well, the issue there was the value started to go down and you couldn't because it was 100% to begin with, right? So then if the rate goes down, or excuse me, if the value goes down, then you're going to have trouble, refining. And so during that whole time, I mean, we were counselors more than we were doing loans.
Yeah.
We just had people lining out the door just to talk and what are my options, what strategies can we do. We helped people modify. We explained, hey, you're probably better to go ahead and work with the bank on a short sale. I mean, we did all kinds of stuff like that, just to try to get people through it because it was pretty weird.
So how did you guys manage to get through that? Where were you before, during, and after? I guess company growth wise. I mean, how many LOs did you have? All that good stuff. And then did you have to make any adjustments yourself? Which obviously, a lot of people did, right? To still be here today, because a lot of people went out of business, bro, and they never opened back up.
Right.
So
well, so it's funny. It just reminded me when we walked in and you go, hey, look, we're doing this construction and these cubicles, that's what it was, is that we were expanding like crazy.
Yeah.
And, so we had an office in the corner, Stockdale Highway in Callaway. We had a little office in there and we wanted to grow. We went and talked to them. And so we took this big old place upstairs and, remodeled it and added all the stuff and, all these cubicles and all this other stuff. I want to say
this was prior.
Yeah, right. So say 05, 06, somewhere in there. And I want to say we got up to about 30, 32 LOs, something like that. So, it was riding high and all that kind of stuff like that. But yeah, when it crashed, we got out of that, got into a smaller place, just kind of got down to real world business.
Started adjusting fast.
Yeah. I mean, to be realistic, those few years of things kind of going, you're really operating a business on hype. You're really operating. We were, and I'm sure everybody else was.
Of course,
you're not operating it as a real business should be operated. You're not looking at income and expenses and projections, and you're just like, man, we got this, we doing it, and it's just, it didn't even really matter. You're just like whatever. And there was no formula to it. There was no, sustainability. And I learned that obviously the hard way. And then from then on, we were just all about the numbers and the projections and being sustainable.
There's a saying with that, bro. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because it's like when you're in business and obviously, you're like a pilot. You're in an airplane.
Yes.
And if you're not tracking your numbers, you're not going to know how much fuel you have left. You're not going to know what speed you're going, your altitude, whatever. So you're going to end up crashing.
Right.
And I've always been big on numbers. We expand that to what we're expanding to, but we do it strategically, I would say, right? So we do it with caution. We know, like, hey, can we afford this? What does our budgeting look like?
Right.
Because that's huge, bro. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because I feel like I was running my business that way the first year. We were talking about that. We just started getting strict.
COVID.
That was during COVID.
Yeah.
When COVID hit, that's when we're like, oh shit. Obviously, it's nowhere near compared to the 08.
Sure.
Because that lasted for a couple years. COVID, when that kind of came up, it lasted for maybe a few months.
Yeah.
And then everybody started going crazy.
Yeah.
Thank God that helped us out. Had that not been the case, I don't think we would be here today, if I'm being honest. Because we were just riding the wave, bro. We were just hyping it up, trying to get this thing going.
Well, but
crazy.
But to be honest, Anthony, why wouldn't you? I mean, what else? Where else would you know to not do that?
Yeah.
Because that's just it. Where is the entrepreneur school? Okay, I don't know of one.
Yep.
Right. So my dad used to say it's the school of hard knocks. Like you just got to go through it. You got to get beat up and whatever. And once you go through that school, and then you've graduated, and it's different. So that's the thing. So I would never ever, tell that story or to yourself or to each other around your office that was a negative thing. You had to go through something like that to become who you are.
Absolutely.
That's just the way it goes. And unfortunately, this is kind of a funny story, but it's true. I had a lot of success early, meaning, it was like everything I did was good and whatever, right? And always telling, people, oh man, you're doing great. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Well, for whatever reason, I'm really big on biographies, right? And I don't read, I like to watch, but, and in every good success biography, okay, it's failure, 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 success. Okay, every one of them. And I started getting scared, like legit, like, wait a minute, I'm succeeding and I haven't failed like at all. So I think that means that I'm going to have to.
Yeah.
But I can't see it happening. So it's like,
now you're just waiting on it.
I'm like, but maybe it won't. Maybe I'm just going to be lucky. I don't know. So the point is that you just really kind of have to kind of go through that. Of course, it'd be great to be mentored, but it's also very much like raising kids. I mean, you can tell them the things you've learned, but they got to kind of go figure it out for themselves. And it's the same way in business.
Yeah. See, and that's why I'm telling you, even though your dad started off with his business, even though your dad started off, I guess, situated, he had a foundation, right? Mm-hmm. You still had to learn what you had to learn, because there's a lot of people where, you give them everything, bro, and they're still not going to take the tools that they need. It's like I tell my agents, bro, I can give you all the tools. I can give you everything that you need to succeed, but it's up to you to use those tools.
Right.
So you picked up those tools and you put them to work, bro. You did what you had to do to, again, from where you were to where you're at now. That's huge, bro. So
that's all your work, pretty much.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's, honestly, that's impressive, bro. It really is.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. You were talking about biographies. I'm just curious, man. Name a few.
Abraham Lincoln. I have an Abraham Lincoln picture in my office, and the picture depicts his failures. So it's like, failed, heart attack, all this stuff, right? And you're like, what the heck, man? And it was like, lost this Senate race or lost this whatever, lost, and then 16th president of the United States. Like, wow, how do you get there?
Yeah.
Like, how do you keep going? Man, I mean, talk about perseverance. Anyways, it's named Perseverance. That they did. It's a picture name. I think that's the one probably that comes to mind. But I mean, all of them. Jobs or Bill Gates or. I don't know.
Got great stories for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like.
But you got to have your favorite. Which one's your favorite? I'll tell you mine now.
I don't know. I like Lincoln. I mean, I don't know every single thing.
That was the first guy you brought up, too. Yeah, why Lincoln? I mean, what is it that I guess intrigued you a little bit more than the others?
I think because he was so unpopular in his view. I mean, he's over here trying to overturn what the country was built on, right? Yeah. With slavery and everything. And everybody, in my opinion, was kind of like everybody against him. But when he did achieve that role that he had, right? Then he's like, all right, now you have to listen to me. Now you're going to do what I'm going to tell you you're going to do. He earned it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I don't know. There's just something about it. And of course, I think he was right. I think he was right in what he did. And I think
courage.
I mean, he had big balls. Can I say that?
Right?
Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. There's just something about it I like about him. I mean, he just fought his way to the top, and then he did the right thing with it. See, some people get the top, they do the wrong thing with it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I kind of admire that as well. I mean,
he had the power and he did the right thing with it.
Exactly. I mean, I think we've seen, if we're looking at, I'm not political really at all, but I mean, if you look at presidents or any other leaders, even leaders in business, sometimes they do the right thing, sometimes they do the wrong thing.
Right.
I think
absolutely.
For him, he did the right thing.
And that's why, I always talk about this too, and I never really bring it up, but when you're in a position where obviously you're a CEO,
of leadership,
you're in, it doesn't matter if you're the president of the U.S. or you're a CEO in your company, with certain power does come, certain responsibility. I feel like the more power you have, the more responsible you need to be. But at the same time, I mean, it's going to sound pretty shitty to say, bro, if I'm being honest. Like, you have to let people know, hey, I have this power. I'm misusing it, I guess, is the word you would use. However, I know what I'm capable of doing, is what I'm saying. Yeah. I know what I can do. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm responsible with it. Just don't cross this line. You know what I mean? And I feel like
the common term that goes with that is don't mistake my kindness for weakness.
Correct.
That's the common line that goes with that.
Right.
And hopefully you never have to pull that out of your back pocket.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because if you have to say that, that means, hey, look, and you're crossing the line.
You're crossing the line. You know
But I think, I mean, you can be to me, my opinion is a good leader. You can tell immediately that they are the one that's actually leading the pack. They if everyone looked the same, dressed the same, they still are standing out. Right. And I think as long as you can do that, as long as you can separate yourself naturally without having to force it, then I think it goes well.
The reason why I bring that up too is because I'm honestly, for the most part, I'm a pretty laid back guy. Sure. You can ask anyone you want. I'm typically in a good mood. I'm a pretty, I guess, uplifting person. I have I like to think I have pretty good energy, right?
Right.
However, and I just started noticing this trend. Whenever I call somebody that I haven't talked to in a long time, they all say the same shit. Oh my God, what did I do wrong? And I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck?
Why me?
Why me? I'm like probably the coolest guy, right. But I feel like even though, and the reason you'll see where I'm getting to this right now.
Sure.
Even though I'm that cool, people will still have that fear,
sure.
And it's not something that I have ever put out there like that. I have never been, and you can ask them, ask anyone. It's very rare when I would bring that stuff up.
Of course.
But that's why I feel like people know, hey, again, with certain power comes, certain responsibility, because, there's people that will misuse it, right? However, there's people that get taken advantage of. Is where I'm getting to.
Yes.
In the sense where if they're too nice, and again, for a lot of business owners, they're too nice, they'll get stepped on. That happened to me a lot when I first started.
Me too.
A lot.
Yeah, me too. Sure, for sure. I think if you, it's a fine line. It's a fine line. My dad used to say, "Don't motivate out of fear." Okay. In other words, don't be that, brutal, beating people down,
you're
screaming, yelling.
Back.
Yeah, don't sit there and beat them up. Don't motivate out of fear. And so, but there's a fine line. If you're too nice, then it's too nice. If you are instilling fear and beating everybody up, that's not going to work either.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a skill set that takes a long time. I don't think, you snap your fingers and you're just, you're just naturally perfect at it. It's a skill set and you learn along the way. But I think the catch is to learn from, all the mistakes, all the failures, right? So as you're running a business, when you have employee turnover, you have issues and that kind of thing, you have to sit back and reflect, and you have to, ask peers that you respect, what do you think? How's this going? And, sometimes it's like, man, you totally are doing the right thing.
Yeah,
okay, cool.
I do that a lot, man.
Okay, well, I'm going to keep going then. And sometimes it's like, you know what? I'm kind of glad you asked me because, you were kind of a dick. It's like, really? Okay, all right. Well, I got to reflect. So I think that's something that you can build over time if you're open to the change and listening to it.
But my question is, are you typically, in particular, the person that takes opinions from your peers, if that makes sense? And do you utilize their opinions towards your business, or do you run your business based off of your beliefs and what you want? And if they like it, then cool, they can ride with you. And if not, then,
kick rocks.
They can kick rocks. How do you operate that?
Well, today, here it is. It is what it is. This is the way I do it. This is why I like to do it. And I feel like I've earned the right to say that because I have the proven success. So yeah, you don't like it, then kick rocks.
Okay. Yeah.
15 years ago, it's whatever you want.
You're pleasing people.
Yep. Oh, okay. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do this. Let's do that.
And how was your business then?
Well, not like it is now.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. You learn. You learn. And yeah. So it too nice.
Okay. Too nice, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I was leading to with that question and the power and all that stuff. You have to let people know I'm nice.
Right.
However, don't cross that line. You have to know, when to use it, I guess. Because
I think too, and I'm only going to speak for myself. I can't speak for everybody, but I think it's a confidence level as well. You have to get to a level of confidence that you.
I agree.
That you
100%.
Believe in yourself. Mm-hmm. You believe what you're doing is the right thing,
mm-hmm.
and then if you do, then whatever happens.
Right.
Because I know what I'm doing. I know where I'm going with it. I'm the pilot. I'm going to make sure that we land this plane safely. You want to jump out the back with a parachute, feel free.
Right.
you know, but I'm going to put this thing on the ground, no problem. Once you get, I think, in that seat where you do feel confident, then it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you can, like you said, you belong for the ride or not. I mean, it's up to you.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I do want to ask you, kind of a little off the topic that we are currently on right now. There's a lot of crap going on today. Obviously, there's always crap going on. But the recent bank collapses, okay, I'm going to get a little bit more statistical here.
Sure.
Okay. Silicon Valley Bank, there's a couple banks that collapsed with it.
Yeah.
Big banks.
What are your thoughts on that? And do you think that it's going to affect the mortgage interest rates in the near future?
Well, the crash of those banks is basically as a result of the Fed's raising rates too fast. Okay.
Yeah.
So without, diving super deep into it, I'm not an analyst or an economist, but, I mean, I understand it pretty well. So that's pretty much a result there of that. In simple terms, I've always said, to clients, in simple terms, bad economic news equals good rates. Good economic news equals bad rates. Okay. So if you look at it on the face value of that, it's probably going to help as far as interest rates go. Why? Because, well, now there's some fear in the market. Now, the
Stocks are
right, exactly. And, the Feds meet next week, see what happens.
Right.
But without a doubt, it's not going to be what it was. 100%, everyone agrees on that.
Okay.
You're talking about the 2%, 3% rates.
COVID time.
COVID rates. Is that what you're referring
I'm talking about the Fed interest rate, the central bank that raises the interest rate. When you hear in the news, Feds raise the rates, which that led to the collapse of these banks. Okay. But what I'm getting at is that is where all the fear instills into people. Rates are up, rates are up, rates are up. They were set to raise 0.5%. Okay, then this happened, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, there's no way they're going to raise 0.5%.
Yeah.
What I'm getting at is that should slow things down there. So in my opinion, I think it will overall help. I don't think it's going to be so bad that you have this crash like we had in 2008, and there's reasons why I think that, but I don't see that happening. But I do see enough to tell the Fed to slow down, stop doing that, and when inflation is coming down, which it's already coming down as well, then you'll see better interest rates.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I honestly think it's a good thing. I know sounds kind of weird. When it happened through the weekend, okay, because it's happened, last week, but the weekend's when it really got weird. I was reading a lot of articles, trying to keep up with it.
Yeah.
And in my head, I mean, it's anything to anybody in my head, I'm like, you know what? We're going to see a nice little bump in interest rates on Monday morning. I'm pretty sure. And sure enough, boom, good little move Monday morning. And so I was all, hyped up and on my phone in bed. First thing in the morning, I look, and my wife was in the bathroom. She's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "No, I knew it. This bank went down, and it's going to help us." So I think the initial reaction is positive.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and that's something we were talking about too. And I did a little bit of research on it. Again, I'm also not an economist, analyst, anything. I feel like I love this stuff, but so I try to do the research, and I 100% agree. I think it's going to help out a lot with the rates. Either way, man, something we always talk about here for the people that are local in Kern County. I've always been biased, I guess, towards Kern County just because I feel like it's a very undervalued city. I feel like even to this day, when people talk about rates, it kind of makes me laugh because you're comparing, $200,000-$300,000 price properties, compared to, I say it all the time, LA properties. What's the average price point out there? 1.2.
Well, I was on a
1.6, something like that.
Yeah, I was on a webinar the other day, and the guy that was speaking, his office is in it's in the Inland Empire, but I think Pomona is where anyway. And he said, look, there's no way you're going to get into anything under 500,000. Like the lowest condo, cheapest anything. Like there's just no chance. So, I mean, that tells you right there.
Right.
We're living large, 500,000 around here.
Oh, for sure. No, I'm serious, bro. We helped a client sell, what was it, a three bed, 2 bath?
Yeah, for almost 800,000.
Yeah.
And she came out here and she cashed
almost 900. It was 875.
Yeah.
She sold for almost 900 grand.
And then bought here.
And then bought here cash at 500,000. And bro, she's living large. I'm like, that's crazy.
I think that's happening a lot. You'd know more than I would, but I think that's happening a lot.
Well, 7 out of 10 transactions are from out of town clients right now. Sacramento,
100%.
San Fernando Valley, like everywhere,
Yeah.
bro. They're coming from up north, down south, and they're all buying here. And
So everybody's running down to Bakersfield.
Well, the remote work is what really allows that to happen.
oh yeah, it is.
Because besides that, you got the commute issue and all this kind of different stuff.
sure.
But the remote work makes that happen. You know what I mean? You know, I mean, I even read articles about people freaking moving to Italy, you know, because it was so cheap over there, and it's remote work, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
What? God, that is the craziest thing I ever heard.
Yeah.
You know, and then they're pushing the remote work back. They're trying to push everybody back into offices, but it's not really happening. And then office buildings are starting to lose value because they're not fully rented. I mean, it's a weird.
You know, I foresee that as a issue in the future. I don't know what your thought on that is, but I do strongly believe that. I mean, again, COVID was kind of proof of that, bro. A lot of people were working from home, so yeah, commercial. I think it's going to take a pretty big hit in the next few years.
The office buildings are
The big office buildings,
right? Not so much like the retail store.
No, yeah.
That's doing good. Office buildings, yeah.
Office
I mean, you can look up some articles in the Wall Street Journal. There's some pretty good articles on it, where some of these real big real estate investing, you know, companies like massive, right, are defaulting on the loans, not even because they can't pay it. They're just like, screw you, I'm not going to pay. I'm going to start negotiating this because it's half empty.
Yeah.
You know, and so I hope that doesn't continue. I like the normal business style of going to work. You know, I do. I think it's important. I hope that doesn't continue necessarily. But getting back to real estate in Bakersfield, that's why they're able to do it. You know, that's the bottom line, because, you know, if they work in San Francisco or LA or something like that, and it's, you know, 3 days remote, 1 day in the office or whatever, they can make it work.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. So
there's a lot of changes here locally. I mean,
well, you see all the
motor
construction,
train,
bro. There's so much
casino.
construction going on. Have you been down Panama Lane by any chance? Like,
No,
recently.
I haven't.
Just drive down Panama Lane, going up towards the Gosford area. Just drive all the way down. You would be surprised, bro, how much construction is going on in just that area alone.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, so a lot of the people that are selling, bro, they're buying cash out here, so they don't even need loans. You know what I mean? So
I know.
that's what a lot of people are not realizing.
You guys are killing it, and I'm dying.
Nah.
A lot of people are just cashing out on those areas.
Yeah, of course.
So I feel like there's gonna be a boom here pretty soon. That's where I'm getting to with this, man. And I feel like it's coming. I don't know when, but I do. And usually I'm pretty right with my projections too. When I tell these guys, hey, inventory is going to come low this month, it comes low. When I tell them, hey, production is going to pick up, production picks up. I do foresee Bakersfield in specific booming very soon. I don't know how soon, but it's going to boom, man. And those prices are going to skyrocket.
Well, let me add to that, because I agree, and let me add to it. Rates are going to come down. We talked about it, and they are, okay? When they come down to a certain level, to where all the sellers feel a little more comfortable to go ahead and sell. They're holding on to that 3% rate. They don't want to take a 7. But when all of a sudden it's, 5, maybe they would, and they're going to get the price that they want. When that happens, and now you got a little more inventory going, the rates are down, so you got a lot more demand. I agree, we're going to start seeing that. My concern, or I should say really my hope, is that the inventory can keep up. And
Absolutely.
I think that it can, if the rates are low enough that sellers don't mind selling.
And do you see an increase in price for when the
demand's up? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, demand's up, right? So, I mean, you guys could probably testify just as much as I can. Demand's there already. Right. I mean, we're talking to clients all day, every day. I mean, you guys know that. You guys do your call nights; they're huge.
Yeah.
But there's not maybe a lot out there, and then maybe there's still a little discouragement in qualifying and all the payments and stuff like that. When that starts to ease up, it's already started, right? We've all kind of seen a pickup this year, and the rates have come down this year. When that starts to pick up even more, okay, demand's going to keep going up. That's my opinion. And the supply needs to keep up. Now, you need sellers to cooperate.
Right.
But I think that will help when, 1, good price, 2, all right, rates are down a little bit, and I don't mind selling.
So what do you got to say to the people that are stating Bakersfield is expensive right now, or I'm waiting for the price to come down?
It's a joke.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'll tell you what I say. Sure. Find me a market where it's cheaper. Just start there.
In California.
Let's just start anywhere. And they go, Homer, Louisiana. Okay, let's, now, but then start looking at the demographics. Okay, you want to say Homer, Louisiana. I just made that up, but I know there is a Homer, Louisiana, but I don't know how cheap it is. Now let's talk the demographics, schools
Right.
and shopping. And I mean, so, and then how much can you make? What's the average wage over there?
Right.
So when you look at living in California and the things that we get to do around us and the demographics.
We're living in luxury here.
Right, exactly. And then for the price. So yeah.
And that's what I'm saying, it's because California is a popular state, dude.
Yeah.
Like people want to live in California. People don't want to live in Louisiana,
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like,
I'm just playing. I'm kidding. I know I'm going to get a lot of bullshit for that. I'm just playing.
Well, but first you're starting with price. That's what I'm saying. So first you go, oh, well, it's cheaper over there. Well, it's like saying, hey, you know what? I don't know, a Prius is cheaper than, Anthony's Porsche, right? Well, of course it is, but which one do you really want? So of course, if you're living in California and you're living, a couple hours from Beverly Hills, or the beach or whatever, of course it's nice.
See, and people talk crap about Bakersfield, and I'm like, why? Like, I think I personally, I love Bakersfield. There's a lot of people in here that live locally that I'm like, man, Bakersfield's whack. There's nothing to do. I'm like, bro, you're central of everything, Los Angeles. Like you just mentioned, bro. I want to take a drive to Rodeo Drive and buy some Louis, some Gucci. I can. I want to go to the beach. I can.
No, Hey, I'm a lot older than you are, so let me tell you, it's been like that for a long time, right? The stigma with Bakersfield is, country music and, Buck Owens. And it's just a hick town and, blah, blah, blah. And let's face it, if you drove through it on 99, you wouldn't see it a lot. Right. So you're kind of like, whatever. But why don't you get off and drive a few blocks and all of a sudden you're in some, beautiful areas, or whatever. So it's just that they don't know, but it's grown a lot. I mean, back in the day, I can remember, populations more like 200,000, 250,000,
right.
we're like upwards of 1 million,
Yeah, we're close to it.
Yeah. So it's changed a lot. Whether they say whatever they want to say, obviously something's clicking, it's working.
Yeah.
Plus you also got to look at this. Here's just simple fact. Simple fact is that almost all of the United States and parts of the world, agriculture comes from California.
Yeah.
And the bulk of the California is Kern County.
Well, there's a statistic on that. 2/3 of agriculture from California and oil production comes from Kern County.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Exactly. So, in terms of jobs and in terms of all that, well, I mean, this is where it's happening. So, this is
actually, another little fun fact I just want to throw out there. They had placed, during the World War II era, they had placed Kern County as one of the more likely places to get bombed because of the agriculture and the oil production.
That's funny.
That's why a lot of the schools here have those basements. Like North High School, BHS. I believe BHS.
I went to BHS.
They're all like connected or something like that. But that's why they did it, because Kern County was listed as one of those.
I did not know that, but that's super cool.
Yeah,
crazy. So I think it's I just want to talk about that. I think that's an important topic. Bakersfield is a booming city. Don't sleep on it. I call it another golden opportunity. I was just talking about it with some guy. We went to a gun store to go get some guns, and one of the guys there he saw my hat and he was like, "Hey," he's like, "You do real estate?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I do real estate." He's like, I got my license. Like, I've been thinking about it for a while. And I'm like, "Well, yeah, come check us out, And he was like, "Well, yeah." He's like, "I've been wanting to do it for some time now." And I'm like, "Well, what is it that intrigued you?" He said, "Honestly, bro, I missed the Vegas boom."
Yeah.
He's like, I see whatever happened in Vegas is happening here in Bakersfield now as we speak, and I don't want to miss out on this.
Yeah, and some of the infrastructure is starting to come together with the West Side Parkway,
I see that,
tying into 58. I take it every day, and yesterday was the first day I noticed 58 go this way. I'm like, oh crap, is it open? Like when it connects all the way, that's super cool. You head to Vegas and you never stop.
That's pretty cool, bro. Honestly,
but I mean, that infrastructure is starting to come in a little better, because back in the day, I mean, it was, a little bit probably tougher for the growth is what I'm trying to get at. Yeah. So growth, we got tons of land, right? To go to go south, go west, tons of land. But you also have to have the infrastructure, and there's a focus on that. So I think that I totally agree with you that the focus is there.
Absolutely. And you were talking about what was the casino that they're making out there down south?
Hard Rock.
Oh yeah,
Hard Rock Casino.
Yeah, in Tejon.
I'm there, bro.
Oh, I'm all over it.
No, for sure. I think the rental market out there is going to boom for sure.
Oh yeah,
by the Hard Rock.
Yeah,
Airbnb is going to be a thing.
Yeah, I think same webinar I was talking about that down south. Was on interviewing the client and this kind of stuff and asking questions. And I think that's probably key, from the real estate standpoint, from the lending standpoint, is talking to the client about real questions like, where do you want to be? Where do you see yourself? What do you want for your family? These kind of things.
Yeah.
Because because we know the answers are okay. You know, it's like, I think it's good to get them to open up, because if they do say, oh, well, this, or oh, well, that, okay, well, we have some good responses for you, like real data that we can share with you that should help you overcome those.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and so I think that's important in our industry is, you know, more than, you know, swimming pools and granite countertops and stuff like that. Let's get down to it. You know, what are
Yeah.
you trying to do? What
Motivation.
yeah, what's your
You're
goals here?
talking long term,
Yeah.
right?
And what scares you? What are you nervous about? What is it that you're worried about? What, you know, different things like that to get them to explain, because I agree with you, also agree with you in terms of, you know, where the growth is going to be. That's a great place to be, the affordability. And I'm a big proponent on building wealth. It has to be through real estate. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're a tech genius in your garage somewhere, you better own some real estate to get anywhere.
Absolutely, yeah.
And, you know, we talked about kids. You want to pass something on to somebody, it's real estate. Come on.
Right.
So, you know, I think engaging more with clients is important. Talking, you know, what is it that makes you nervous about this transaction? You know, what is it that you're wanting to do, don't want to happen? Because we should have good answers.
You know
Yeah.
what? And it sounds like you're not a salesperson.
Right. Well, you're trying to connect.
Right.
You're trying to connect with them and get them to. This was the story that the guy shared. I thought this was like super cool. I was just. I do a lot of emails, you know, to the LOs and stuff at the office, you know, and I tell them, I know you guys probably get sick of my stuff, you know, because I'm always like, hey, I thought about this. But he was saying is, the question, I might not get it word for word, but basically, what would it mean to you and your family to own a home? He goes, I asked this guy this question that, you know, he asks all the time, but he was giving an example of a guy that he asked the question. And the guy got all kind of weird looking on him, kind of teared up on him, and was like, well, I just got out of prison about, you know, several years ago, maybe 5 years ago or whatever it was. And he's like, it would mean everything to me to be able to own my own home after what I've been through and being in prison for like 10 years or something like that. Whoa. And the guy was like, man, if I didn't ask that question, I never would have known.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
and I'm just like, you know, we're in lending, so he's doing the loan. I just do the loan, you know, no big deal. He goes, after I asked him that question and he answered, he's like, I told him, listen, I don't care what I got to do, I'm getting you into this home, like,
Nice.
like no matter what.
Yeah.
If you can connect on that kind of level, that's one of the things I've always enjoyed doing what we do is, you know, you're helping people. So
Right.
Legitimately, right?
And I always
So,
tell people that.
it's like on one level, it just feels good to help people, right? So if you can connect and you know that you're helping them get from point A to point B, and then of course on the second part is you're understanding what they're looking for and
Yep.
what they want.
Yep.
You know, I remember another deal that I saw a long time ago, and the guy said, to make a sale, you solve the problem. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. It doesn't matter if you're selling cars, real estate, TVs. It doesn't matter. You have to figure out what is the problem, and then you solve the problem.
Yep.
Right.
But you can't do that unless you engage with clients. You can't do that unless you're listening.
Like actually give a shit. That's
Exactly.
really what it comes down
Try to hear it, because I mean, what might be important to me might not be important to you or you.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. You know, I mean, you got to talk to them. You know, what's important.
And one of the
that's
things that we talk about
preach.
for sure.
Yeah, we preach that to everybody, and it's out of experience on my end too. I've learned that from this guy.
Yeah.
He filled me from the very beginning. When I got in the business, he was in the business maybe for 2 years, 3 years.
There's a little story.
And
we talk about it all the
I
time.
was on the phone, and I literally at some point I wouldn't listen to the people. They would go and they would vent to me, and I was like, okay, so did you want to talk to the lender?
Yeah.
You know, I was that person.
Right,
and I wasn't caring. I wasn't being genuine.
Right.
But when I started to realize that we're genuinely here to help people out,
Right.
and I started using that line, I tell people, look, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to help you out. You reached out to us, and we're here to guide you.
Yeah.
And once I started implementing that, my business changed.
Yeah.
Completely different.
There's a little story on that. So it's something that I like to teach now, and I'm sure you probably, I don't know if you do a lot of trainings with the lenders, with your LOs, but when I do the trainings here, you know, this is exactly what I still tell them till this day. Again, he was making phone calls, and I kept, you know, listening to him. We were sharing an office at that time, so there was like 3 desks, okay? And he was next to me, I was here, and I would just listen to a lot of his conversations, and he was making a lot of phone calls back to back. And we had scripts that we would go based off of, right? Obviously, scripts are important. You gotta memorize scripts, but I always say add your personality.
Of course.
So this guy was so focused on his next question that he wasn't listening to the lead. And the leads, like he said, they were venting, man. They were just like, dude, it's because of this, and my wife this, and my
Right.
job this.
Right.
It was the script telling me to ask him that.
Yeah.
I wasn't asking the right question.
Right.
The script telling me.
And then Rigo's like, all right, well, do you want to get connected to the lender? And they're like, you know what? I'll call you later. Let me talk to my wife. And they would hang up, right? And then he asked me, like, dude, like, what am I doing wrong? And I'm like, do me a favor, pick up another call. I'm going to listen to everything that you're saying. As soon as he hung up, and I'm like, dude, you smell like fucking commission breath.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a thing, bro.
Yeah.
And I talk about it all the time. You don't want to, obviously we're in sales, bro. We do this for a living, but you're not a salesperson. You really truly are not. You're here. You're a psychologist.
We're more therapists than
We're
in sales.
therapists. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're legitimately listening to their problems, their issues. And just like you mentioned earlier, every problem has a solution.
Correct.
Listen to the problems. How are you going to try to find a solution
Yes.
if you're not listening to that
Exactly.
issue?
Exactly.
So as soon as he did that, bro, his
a game changer.
conversion ratio just kind of went up.
right now,
His
I start a
10-minute
conversation-
conversations, they're crazy, you know?
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I mean, you have to, with what we do, it's the biggest purchase they're ever going to make, right? So I mean, it's a serious thing. It's a serious thing, and you have to listen to them and see what things they're trying to accomplish.
For sure.
I think one of the from our side of it and the industry side of it, and on the the commission side, like you said, I think what's important for newer agents, especially, to learn is that, hey, this isn't, selling like, every day you're selling 5, 10, 15, 20, it's a process. It's a process, and it's planting seeds, and it's letting and cultivating and letting that grow.
Right.
And if you can start thinking in that direction and slow down, calm down, and talk to people, work with them, find out what the problems are, whatever, then you'll find, might take some time, but you'll find that the sales go way up. If you go at it too hard, it's not going to be the same. And even if you do get the closings, guess what? You're not going to get them again.
I love that analogy. We
love
use
that.
that exactly. It's you reap in the future.
Correct.
You know?
Right. Yeah, I know. I always say planting seeds. You're
Yep.
planting seeds. They're frustrated. They're like, oh man, I did this, I did that. I went to a lead. Rigo won't talk to me. Whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but you're planting seeds.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's how it works. And what happens when you really plant seeds? You forget for a couple days, and you go out, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, it's working.
Yeah, it's booming. Yeah, and it goes back to the whole short-term, long-term thinking, strategy. When you come into business,
In real estate and lending, it has to be long-term thinking. That's my point. So like
Absolutely.
the new agents coming in, or even just your overall sales to your office. Look, this is long-term. You can't look at someone like Marisol's success or any other agent that has success in the industry. You can't look at him and go, oh, well, I just want to get to there. You got to put that out of your head. It's it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
That's her chapter 20. This is your chapter 1.
100%.
Yeah.
Exactly.
and we just talked about that too. That's funny.
Because like in our office,
It's all
maybe-
mindset.
Yeah.
in our office, maybe Kelly, right? She's been doing it for a long time, but that's what I tell them is like, look, she's been doing it a long time.
Yeah.
The deals that we close every month, there's a high probability that those clients we talked to a year ago, 2 years ago, sometimes longer. Like it's not really probably as common
Yeah.
that Rico sends us a lead today, they write an offer this weekend, and we close next month. It happens, but it's not as common.
Yeah.
It's a process because you are nurturing. You're listening to what they're trying to do. You're trying to help them make the decision, and it's a process.
Yeah, exactly. And I like that you mentioned that, Marisol and Kelly, they're top producers. And on the last podcast, I had mentioned this too. I had one of the guys ask me in one of our trainings, they were like, hey, I was giving a speech, I got done, and he's like, well, let me ask you, we were talking about schedules. He said, let me ask you, what's your schedule like? And I'm like, dude, that's the wrong question. You shouldn't even be asking me that right now. You should be asking me what was my schedule when I first started to get to where I'm at right now, because my schedule, my chapter 20 is going to look a lot different than your chapter 1.
Exactly.
See, and that goes to that again, to the long-term thinking.
Yeah.
When agents
wanna
or
get there.
lenders come in,
Of course.
they're like you mentioned, oh, I'm going to give it all I got. But it's not a quick thing. So what do? They burn themselves out.
2
They're like,
months
I've been in it for 2 months and I haven't gotten anything. And I'm like, dude, what about the people that have been doing this shit for 2-3 years and they're barely starting to take off? They don't realize that, again, you're cultivating.
Exactly. Well, the big part of it is, is the money, right?
Yeah.
So one, you're hoping to get there as fast as you can. 2, you're also, you need it, right? So it's like, oh man, I'm broke, whatever. So I think the big part there is, look, you've got to put that out of your head. You have got to put the money part out of your head. If you're staring at that, it's not going to work. You have to keep going forward no matter what. Just keep plowing away.
You know what it
every
is?
single day.
You know what it is? Like the reality, it's not even the money part. It's not about how much they're gonna make. I know the real issue comes down to the bills.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that they need it.
Like that's the hardest fucking part. It's like,
Yeah.
man, I haven't paid my car bill. I
Right.
haven't paid this. I haven't paid
Right.
that.
But it's a sacrifice.
And it's the sacrifice that you got to make. I remember at one point in time, I had quit real estate the first 3 months,
Sure.
and when I went back, that was always my biggest issue. It was like, oh my god, because I had decent credit at the time.
Sure.
I said, I'm gonna come back, and I'm not gonna focus on the problem. I'm gonna focus on the solution. I know what my problem is.
Right.
I need the solution, right?
Yeah.
I let my bill stack. I'm gonna be honest. I let my bill stack up.
Sure.
My credit went to shit. Of
course.
But I was fucking happy, bro.
Right.
I was living in peace, knowing that all I was doing was gonna later whatever I was working on now.
Right, you
was
had a
gonna
plan.
fix that. I had a
You
plan.
had a
Correct.
plan, and you're on track for the plan.
Correct.
Like I say a lot of times, at the office, I'm like, hey, you ever see where a big company, Verizon or whoever, they're celebrating because they only lost $1 billion in the fourth quarter. And you're like, wait a minute, they're celebrating because they lost $1 billion. It's like, well, they were scared they're going to lose $3 billion, so they're celebrating. They're ahead of they're ahead, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it works. It's like you have to have a plan. The plan doesn't equal success day one or
Right.
year one.
Yeah.
The plan is to get to a certain place at a certain time. and
Milestones.
keep milestones, exactly. That's hard to do. And I tell people all the time, like, look, what we do, and I'm talking lending, I'm not talking real estate.
Yeah.
I go, look, what we do, it's not rocket science. Okay. You don't have to be brilliant to do what we do.
Yeah.
The hard part is up here mentally. That's the hard part. The hard part isn't, being this genius lender. The hard part is to understand that you have to keep going no matter what. You have to put blinders on and forget everything around you and just keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going. And then here comes the success. Oh, I've made it. Now I've made it. Now I'm just going to, go and, party, and I'm just going to do this and do that. And then guess what? It's gone. And then now here we go again. And that's the hardest part to manage. And I think that it's just crucial for newer people into the industry, whether it is lending or real estate, understand that's the hard part. The hard part isn't being the brilliant
mindset. Yeah.
The mindset. It's not being the brilliant salesperson. Yes, of course, it takes skill. I'm not saying that. But the hard part is staying the course. Is every single day, just keep doing the same thing. I saw a YouTube video not too long ago, maybe a year ago or so, interviewing this top producing loan officer, okay, who just got in the business like, a year before and, was hitting these huge numbers. And then they sit down and within the first couple of minutes, they go, well, tell us what's the key to your success. And he's like, I don't know. I just do the same thing every day. I don't, there's nothing
repetition.
There's nothing crazy. So they go on and talking, and the guy played professional baseball, and he's like, I mean, it's pretty simple. When you play professional baseball, you get up every morning, you do your workout, you do your diet, you go there, you have your practice, you come back, you hit balls, you throw balls, and you get up, and guess what? You do the same thing again and again and again. You do the same thing. And I'm just doing the same thing every single day, and I'm like, freaking genius,
It
bingo.
goes back to practice makes perfect.
Just keep doing what you're doing and quit, looking around and going, well, but Rigo,
that person.
Rigo did more than me, or like you said, Marisol do this, or well, what's your schedule, Anthony? It's
So and so's doing flips. Look how much they made.
yeah, like
Bro,
get
that
off
is
of
not, and that's why I asked you that question in the beginning. Did you ever lose sight or did you stay focused at repetition? Because I'm huge on repetition, obviously, and I use the gym as an analogy for everything, bro.
Yes.
If you go to the gym once or twice a week, you're not gonna get a six pack, bro. If you go every day, but you're not working at it, you're not gonna get a six pack.
Exactly.
You have to show up. Showing up is just half the battle. You show up, then you put in the work, and you do that every day continuously for 6 months, and then you come and talk to me.
Correct.
It's the same thing with our industry.
Right.
You can't expect to do it for 1 or 2 months, and then okay, cool. And I want to touch up on something that you just mentioned right now. So you're focused, and people think that they're gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna do it. 6 months later, I'm gonna reach a finish line. I'm gonna be successful. Or a year later, 2 years later, even if they're committed. Do you feel and this is just from my perspective, I don't know how everybody else views this, but do you ever feel like you never really reached the quote unquote success? Do you feel like, man, I got to do more, I got to do more, I got to do more? Because I feel like I personally haven't reached. I don't consider myself successful yet. You know what I mean? I feel like, bro, like
I have this.
I feel like I haven't reached that
but
point.
I need this.
Like I have this, but I can do this better. I can do this
I
better.
think if you feel like you've reached it, then you stop. and you can't stop.
Because a lot of people have that mentality, though. A lot
Can't
of people think they're gonna get to a finish line. I don't think there's a finish line.
No, there's
bro.
no, there's.
I mean,
no
depending
finish
on
line.
who you are, you know.
Well, I mean, here's a good example, and I hope this is okay to share. I think it's a pretty fair.
We're 100%, bro. Whatever you want to share.
So we're a franchise, like you said, a branch of Gem Mortgage, right? Gold Empire Mortgage. About 60 branches, all Western United States. Washington, Oregon, Arizona, Texas, California. Mostly California.
Yeah.
We won last year, beat everybody.
Nice.
Okay, and all the last 4 months I've heard is, man, I can't. How'd you guys do that? And man, that was great. And congratulations. And I kid you not, I'm just like, look, we did terrible in my mind. Okay, it was a really rough year. Lost a lot of money. There's no success here. We won, but no, I want to win when it's good.
Yeah.
I want to beat everybody when they're on their A game, not when they're doing the worst year they've ever had.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you guys want no. It's just I can't look at that and say, oh, we've accomplished it.
You have high expectations.
Can't do that. Because if I do, I'm going to sit around and like my football coach used to say, you're going to break your arm, pat yourself on the back. I'm going to break my arm, pat myself on the back, and turn around and find that we're out of business. You can sit there and stare at your trophy all day and go, look how great we are. And then guess what? You're gone. You're gone. So to me, you never reach the level. It doesn't make any difference what it is.
You know what that reminded me of? We were, when I first started, real estate, we joined a company that, their average escrows were about 2 to 3 per person. They would congratulate if you got 1 or 2 listings. And this is where I kind of pick up on the environment, right? If you got 1 or 2 listings, you closed them, you were a badass, at most 6, 7 escrows. And I'm talking about the most in a month, you were a badass.
Right.
When I first started my first year, I closed 4 transactions. The second year, I closed 20. That year, I was the top agent. Every year after that, I was the top agent.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, like, man, because I didn't feel good about it. I felt like shit. Like, again, like I'm telling you, I think there's more.
Yeah.
I think I need to do something better so that I can go from 20 to 40. I was just stuck at 20, 20, 20. Right. That was my number, bro. 20, maybe 22 one year, 24 one year, but always in the 20s.
Right.
And until I switched up my environment to where I'm like, okay, I need to be around people that are doing 40.
Yeah.
50.
Sure.
60. Do you ever feel like that yourself? Like, okay, I mean, I'm number 1, but I'm not happy. I feel like I can do more. I need to hang around or be around people that are going to push me to be like, okay, this is an expectation that I have for myself.
I think we push ourselves there. I and Joe Navarro, our sales manager, me, Lori McGowan,
shout out to Joe.
Marketing manager. I think we push each other pretty well. The 3 of us, we have our meetings together, and I think we do push ourselves, pretty well. And then we do have, like I said, competition with everybody else,
of course,
like the other 60 branches, which is kind of cool. But for me, and again, going back to the biographies and all that, you'll see this common thread as well. I tell you right now, it's in me. It's fear of failure. It doesn't make any difference. It doesn't make any difference how well I'm doing, how much money I have, how much success I have. I'm still scared to death all the time because I've seen it happen. I've lived through it. And it's like, son of a bitch, I ain't going to fucking lose again.
I love it.
You know what I mean? It's just the competitive side. It's like, I ain't fucking going to let that happen again. So I think if you kind of don't have that, that's okay. I think it's just something you need to kind of try to work on if you're in this type of industry is, forget everybody else. You're really competing with yourself.
Yeah.
Like you said. What you said was you were competing with yourself. You didn't say you were competing with the office. You're just competing with yourself.
Yeah.
You want to keep pushing and see how far you can go.
Be the best version.
Be the best version, exactly. And I think
that's the way Elite Realtors was born, by the way. Be the best version of yourself. Elite, baby.
Yeah. No, it is. It is. And like I said, you don't have to be born with that, but you do have to work on that. Like, hey, you know what? Stop patting yourself on the back. Look at yourself and be like, all right, can I push it a little bit more? Like the gym, right? Can I push it a little bit more? Can I push it a little bit more? Can I try to get a little bit better this year? Last year I did 20. Can I do a little bit better? Market conditions weren't great. I did 16. Pretty proud of that during the market conditions. All right, let's just do 18 now. Let's get back to 20 again.
So that right there is crucial to have, right, in the business.
100%.
Okay.
If you get derailed on everything else, I'm sorry, you're just not sustainable, in my opinion. You might have your good years, you might have whatever, but you aren't building a career or a business or being sustainable unless you can
a legitimate foundation.
A legitimate foundation, right? Exactly. You put all that other stuff aside, and just look at that longevity. and
it's crazy that you mentioned that because it seemed like during, since 2020 when that COVID, wave happened up until, let's say, last year, I feel that a lot of agents and a lot of companies, real estate companies, even some lenders were riding the wave.
of course,
They were all doing great. They're
Yeah.
all performers, but the majority of them at this point, they're not even.
They're not doing business. And I called this on. I think this was my first podcast, dude. did it with a really good lender too, and I had talked to him, and one of the topics we were talking about was exactly that. And I even told him in that podcast, I said, dude, there's a lot of people that are in and they're getting business just because they're licensed, because everybody during COVID wanted to buy a home.
Sure, of course.
And I called it. I had a training and I told my guys, look, mentality, your mindset, right? Don't get comfortable, because the people that are getting comfortable right now that don't have legitimate systems, they don't have a legitimate foundation,
Right.
They're gonna lose. They're gonna get washed out.
Of course.
And sure enough, dude, there's a lot of people that I used to see advertising, marketing. They were on social media. They were top producers.
Sure.
They're not doing it anymore, bro.
God.
They rode the wave.
I've seen it so many times. You know what I mean? I've seen it so many times, going up and going down and being gone, and it happens a lot. It happens a lot. It's happening now. It's happening now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure.
That's crazy. No, it was just a good topic that we were talking about it the other day, and it really just it's always going to come down to a legitimate foundation in your mindset.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing that we were just talking about on an individual level that you need to be on a company level. Is you can't get hung up on what everybody's doing and everything else. Just focus on yourself. Keep moving forward. Nothing lasts forever. That's good and bad. Okay, when it's good, I guarantee you right now, it ain't lasting forever.
Yeah.
And even when it's bad, because trust me, when you go through the bad, you're thinking, oh man, it's never going to change. But you also think, oh, it's never going to change when it's the good. They both change. So you have to keep going, and making sure you're ready for when it does change. Because that's the other thing. If you aren't prepared for a change, then the chances of your failure have just gone up a lot.
Yeah.
Right? You have to be prepared for what the change might be. And the change might be for the good or the bad, but you have to be prepared. Take the good.
Mentally.
Take the good. Let's take Rico here, right? He gets going. He's a successful agent. He's getting busier and busier. Part of the change that he could be focusing on is, hey, as I get to the bigger numbers, as I get to, beating Anthony's 20 and 30 and 40 and 50, do I have a plan?
How can I stay there?
Yeah, as I grow, how can I capitalize on that? One of the things I like to talk about from our standpoint, from a lending standpoint, if I'm over here talking to Anthony about doing business with Elite, one of the things I'll say is, hey, I'm sure you're comfortable with who you're using and all that. But what if you dropped 100 leads on them today? Can they handle it? What if you have 100 every day? Can they handle it? I have to, or I try to, from a company standpoint, think about that. Like, hey, you know what? What if we get busier? What if what we talked about when rates go down and all of a sudden starts booming in Bakersfield? Am I ready?
Preparing. Yeah.
Am I ready to capitalize? Okay. Or am I just sitting over in the corner crying because it's been a shitty year? No, get ready for it and be prepared to capitalize.
That's fucking crazy that you're just bringing this up. By the way, I have been posting a lot on my Instagram, like Bakersfield, get ready, Fresno, get ready.
Yeah.
A lot of people are saying that, the times that we're going through right now and what we've been going through these past couple months have been what? What would you consider the real estate market like, overall?
Market.
It's been a bad market, for a lot of people, right? Sure. And I'm like, fuck, dude.
I use the word weird. It's been a weird market.
It's been a weird market.
I don't say it's bad at all.
Correct. Yeah, because I 100% agree. People are buying and selling no matter
what.
That's
what I'm saying. We have the demand.
Correct.
We pre-qualified just as many people in 22 that we pre-qualified in 21. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Correct.
We just didn't have the sales.
However, there you go. However, we didn't have the sales, and that's a big reflection. And a lot of people were going based off of that. So they were saying. So that's why some people were saying, it was a bad market. I think it was different.
It was good on our.
But I'm like, dude, we got to get ready. We got to get ready. And just to give you guys that little insight as to what it is that I've been talking about. That's what I'm doing, bro. I'm getting ready for that fucking boom because it's coming.
Well, right. So just look at it just from a statistical standpoint, okay? We already got done saying we qualified same amount of people in 20 and 22 that we did in 21, okay? Yeah. But they didn't close, right? Okay. Then you forward into 23, you're still on pace for the same thing, not closing as much, or whatever. Whenever that starts to turn, all those people that didn't close, guess what? Now they're closing. And the new ones. Yeah. It's a tidal wave that's building. Right. So at some point, all of a sudden, boom, here comes a tidal wave, and are you ready or are you not?
Yeah. And that's what I've been prepping for, bro, these past 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months already. And I'm like,
And here's the thing: the guys like Rigo that are on track, and got the blinders on. They're going forward. They're kicking ass every single day, no matter what. Right? When that hits, then it's just boom. Right? And then here comes all the agents back that left. Now they're back in. Same thing. Lenders, same thing, and they don't capitalize.
And then everybody says, "How'd you do it?"
Exactly. They go, "Oh well, how did he do? 15 deals this month?" And he's like, "But I didn't even know I did. Is that what I did, Anthony? I did 15 deals because you're so focused."
I think it was 25.
Yeah, who's counting? Who's counting? Let's get some stats in here. But I just think it's important. I think it's important. I think when it's up, you're planning for, okay, if there's a decrease, and do I see a decrease coming? And if I do, let's plan for it.
Yeah.
But when it's down, it's the exact opposite. I know this is going to be booming because I can see it happening. We need to be prepared to do it.
Of course, yeah. And I think that's a perfect example of, keeping track of your numbers. Obviously you want to have, reserves. You want to save for a rainy day. And obviously that's huge in our industry because, again, if you don't make money, you're not going to. So always have some kind of reserves, always have at least 6, 7 months of reserves in case something happens.
Right.
You're ready.
Yeah.
However, be ready on both sides. We call it defense and offense. That's what we go based off of.
Yeah.
On our offense, what are we doing? On our defense, what are we doing? Are we planning? Are we budgeting? Are we removing expenses? And that's actually, we've been playing a lot of defense, but at the same time, we're getting our offense team ready to just boom, go forward. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sure.
But
Smart.
I mean, how far in are we into this right now?
Hour 16.
Hour 16. Damn, that was a pretty good podcast so far.
We did it.
I mean, that's pretty much all I got for today. We kind of touched up on a lot of different topics, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, we were all over the place.
We were. I had a bunch of questions, and I think we just kind of went with the flow.
No, it's better like this because it's genuine.
Yeah.
It's more real, bro.
Yeah.
It's
Well, that's what I told you when we talked about it. I just said, hey, let's just do it raw and uncut. I mean, just fire at it and just see where it goes.
See where it goes. See what happens.
No rehearsing. It's just let's dive in.
For sure, 100%. Well, anyway, guys, that's it for right now. So again, we had the honor of speaking with Kraig here today. Again, he's a franchise owner here at Signature Home Lending, pretty big company here out in Bakersfield, very reputable, very respectable. Again, thank you so much, Kraig, for being with us today. It was nice having you. It was a really good, podcast. I really enjoyed it. I feel like we touched up on a lot of good topics. So
it was awesome. I appreciate you guys. Yeah. Now I don't have to keep begging you to have me on.
No, for sure.
Not at all. Honestly, for real, I'm glad we did this, man.
No,
honestly,
I appreciate it. It was fun. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe. Kraig's information is going to be below. And again, stay tuned for the next one, okay?